Hey everybody, this is Matt with onX, and I'm excited to show you some new layers we've been working on for the last several months. And it's kind of a new concept that has to do with forest data, and I think it's really interesting. I think you guys are really gonna love it. One of the problems with aerial imagery is it's really hard to tell, from the pictures what type of trees are on the landscape. And so we wanted to solve that problem by giving you the tools to do the research and see what types of trees are on the landscape, whether you're scouting a property or a place you're going to go to, and kind of get some of that done ahead of time. So let's dive in and take a look at some of these forest layers that we've been developing the last several months. If you haven't turned them on yet, you're going to want to go to your map layers, go to layer library, and you'll scroll down here and you'll see the tree species and habitat maps folder now. We're just going to open that up, and I'm going to go ahead and add all the layers. You'll see that's added all of the layers to my Layers tab. So I'm going to go ahead and open that, and we can just look through here briefly. We've got the first layer I'm going to show you is deciduous versus coniferous forest. And so this is just a general breakdown on the landscape. I'm going to turn that on of what is going on the landscape. So you'll see you can toggle that on and off. Very easy to do. Okay, you can see here when I turned on the deciduous versus coniferous layer, we got some colors popping all over the map, right? And we got some little bit of explaining to kind of tell you how all of these layers work and how they're designed. So as you zoom in here, you'll start to see that there's pixels, right? Little boxes, and each box is a 30 by 30 meter pixel. And each one would represent what the majority species or forest type is for that pixel. So for this little pixel here, we have a deciduous forest. That's what we're telling you right there on this one. So you can look at all of the different ones, and each little pixel is going to have a different code. There's going to be some out by themselves. There's going to be some grouped together. And so this is done using an aerial imagery analysis. And so it's a general trend. I wouldn't say that just because this one pixel out here in the middle of a coniferous forest is deciduous, that actually is deciduous. I'd say use the general trends. Look for broader landscape trends. Try to find clumpings, 4, 5, 20 pixels together. That's going to give you a really good confidence factor that is that forest type. And so just because it's the majority species in that pixel doesn't mean that there's other species inside that forest. So there's going to be oak trees, it could be an oak tree in a coniferous forest, right? Like one oak tree, but our analysis is going to say that in general that's a coniferous forest. So this is really broad landscape view, so I just take that into consideration here. Okay, so as we're looking at broad landscape trends, we've got the 6 layers here. So I've got deciduous versus coniferous on, and let's just dive in and start talking about them. And so you can see on the coniferous forest, it's going to be this tan color. On deciduous forest, it's going to be red, and then mixed is going to be the orange. So as you're looking at a property here, we can look at this plot of land here, and we know this is all a coniferous forest. Next door we have some deciduous trees. Up here, we're getting into some mixed forest with coniferous and deciduous. So really this gives you a landscape view while you're scouting of just kind of what the forest makeup is. Like, do you want to be hunting pine forest? Do you want to be hunting maple forest? This can kind of break that down for you. Okay, so the next layer is the deciduous tree distribution. And this kind of breaks out the deciduous trees a little more granular for you. So when you turn this on, you'll see on the map a whole bunch of colors just popped on. And if we go to layer settings, this is where you can control all of your layers and the different sub-layers. So always be sure to check here on any of our layers to see if there's more sub-layers you can play with. But on the deciduous tree distribution, you'll see we have alder, maple, aspen, birch, elm, ash, cottonwood, maple, beech, birch, oak, gum, cypress, oak, hickory, and then others. And so these are all independent layers that you can turn on or off independently. So if you're looking to find maybe just aspen birch, you can just turn that one off, turn the rest off. But what I really like is you can get in here on the landscape and start to see what these deciduous trees are made of. So for this example, we have elm, ash, cottonwood forest here. Over here is more of an aspen forest. So looking around the landscape is going to give you an idea of what type of trees are there. This is kind of a new concept, like I said at the beginning. So as we've been playing with it, we've kind of found new ways to use this to our benefit. I think one of the main ones is kind of finding these transition zones between forests, and those are usually good travel corridors or have some like destabilization of the forest right through there. So there's like more sunlight hitting through those transition zones. You might have more food. There's usually travel corridors along some of these. So that's what we've been finding there, along with like food sources. So if you're looking for maple leaves as a food source for deer, you can target the maple beech birch layer to find those. If you're looking for oak force, for oak, you can do that. Aspen birch, for grouse hunting. So this really breaks that down. You can scout, start dropping waypoints on some of these forests that are looking good to you. And also for the deciduous tree, I've actually been using it quite a bit out west here in the mountains. One of the things I've been doing is trying to find those aspen pockets in the pine or juniper forest. And so you can turn on the deciduous tree distribution here, and you'll see that there's some aspen force mixed in with these other pine and juniper. So it makes it really easy on the map to like zoom in and quickly highlight these aspen force, which are usually spots that have some water, usually a little bit different food source. And so sometimes you want to target in on those for your deer and elk hunts as well. Okay, let's go to the next layer. So the next layer is our coniferous tree distribution, which does all of our softwood trees. So your pine trees, juniper, hemlock, all of that. So let's go ahead and turn that on here. And you'll see we actually have the same in layer settings. There's 6 different layers here you can play with. So you can select just pine. You can do fir, hemlock, spruce force, just juniper, large tamarack if you're targeting those, longleaf pine, and then others. So here on this landscape, we can see if you're hunting this unit, we didn't have a lot of fir, hemlock, spruce forest. And then down lower, you start getting into the pine forest as well. So you can kind of see those breakouts here on the landscape as you pan around here. So you can select all of those. You can go back and you can actually turn on the deciduous tree distribution at the same time if you want to have both on. And you can get in here and really dive in and see what this forest is made of. So you've got a lot of aspen, fir, hemlock on the ridge tops, aspen in the bottom. So it just gives you a really good idea of what kind of terrain you're going to be doing. Also, like if you're looking on hillsides to glass or do stuff like that, if it's juniper, you're going to have a little bit better view to glass versus pine or fir or hemlock forest. And so knowing that ahead of time by using this layer can help you decide if you can actually glass those hillsides or not. So that's one of the things I've been doing. So, okay, next let's go back out to Pennsylvania and look at our thermal deer cover layer. So let me transition over to there. Okay, next is our thermal deer cover. And so this layer is just a quick way to highlight all of the softwood forest. So that's going to be, I'll pull it open here, your hemlock, your fir, your spruce, your cedar, your juniper, your redwoods out west in California. So we've actually taken the coniferous tree distribution that we had earlier, we've broken it down even further here. So now you can target these 6 specific forest types. And so these provide thermal cover from snow, rain, wind. They also can provide some food source late in the winter. And so these are really good late season bedding areas typically. And we excluded pine because they don't provide as much of a good thermal cover as the other coniferous trees. So you can see here, you can pan in, look at this state game lands. Maybe you're planning on hunting this late season, flintlock season in Pennsylvania, and you've got some good thermal cover up here on this ridge up here, and so that might be a good bedding area that you want to go in and check out. So that's a little bit about the thermal deer cover. Let's go to one of the really cool ones is our acorn producing oaks, and I think if we turn that on here, we'll turn off that we'll start to see some oak trees here in Pennsylvania as well. So let's just play around here. So what we did with the acorn producing oaks is we actually took all of the oak force and we broke them out into the white oak species, red oak species, and then the mixed oak species. And you'll see on each of these pixels here, it'll show if it's a white oak, mixed oak, and then there's some red oaks, in different spots of the country. But these are, we cut out all of the oak tree forests that were too young to be producing acorns. So these are all the mature oak trees. So each pixel represents the majority species in that pixel. It doesn't mean that other forest species and tree species aren't in that pixel. But what I would use this layer is to look for those pockets, those concentrations of oak trees, and those are going to be some good food sources. So whether you're doing it here in Pennsylvania for deer, or let's grab another spot here. I think I got one saved. So whether you're deer hunting up north with oaks, or in the south, or you're looking for even duck hunting, flooded timber, finding those oak pockets. Here we are down in Arkansas, and we've got our oak layer on here. Let me pull that back up here. So you can see we've got all of our white oaks here. Got some white oaks over here. Got our red oaks and some mixed oaks. So looking for those hot pockets on where those mature oaks are, that's going to be a great food source. So we're really excited about this layer and to keep working on it. So I play around with that one. Okay, so the last one is our young Aspen Force. And with this one, we were really targeting the feedback from our ruffed grouse, woodcock hunters, and other, hunting Aspen Force when they're young as a food source for deer as well. So the young Aspen Force are really great habitat for the ruffed grouse, woodcocks, and deer. So we went ahead and highlighted those. Those show up in this kind of purple color here. And you'll see on the landscape, these are the young Aspen Force. They're going to be 0 to 15 years old about, and have that really good habitat that you're looking for. You'll see there's a nice clump of them right here. If you're hunting this property, come over here. There's a nice group here you might want to get into. So just highlighting those young aspen versus all the other types of force out there, then you can be really efficient in the field, hit those pockets of young aspen, hopefully be a little bit more efficient when you're chasing those grouse this fall. So those are some of the 6 new layers we've built so far. Like I said, these are kind of brand new layers. We're finding new ways to use them every time we kind of get in here and talk to people about it. So I'd get in, start play around with like what species are relevant in your area, what species you're hunting, talk to the biologists about what kind of trees and species and food sources they prefer, and maybe it'll help you narrow in on how to use these layers a little bit more. We've got the video that's here that I'm talking about, so we'll have the comments below. So leave some feedback on these layers. We can work on iterating, adding more species, more concepts. So please leave some feedback in the bottom. Let's get some discussion going there. And go ahead and start playing around with it. And we're really excited about these new layers. So thanks for tuning in.